So I was looking through the forums, looking for some inspiration for a video, and I found a question by, I believe it's pronounced Procaosa, Procasa, and he said, or she said, or they said, so I want my AI to move to point 1, but it's moving to point 2 because in world distance is smaller. I use find nearest node. So I thought this was an interesting problem to try to help, and I did find a solution, and I'm going to show you today. Well, I'm going to show you the solution to the guy's query, and I'm going to show you a simplified version of having the AI follow some waypoints. Because the question actually is more I feel like this is more complicated than a solution using a waypoint manager, which I'm going to show you after. So I'm going to walk you through how I've got this set up. So I have the third person template, and all I did was made a couple classes. I'm going to try and walk you through this as in the best way possible. So this is using the environment query system in Unreal. To be able to visually see the environment query system, you need a testing pawn. So the way I got a testing pawn was if I go to my EQS here, so I have a testing pawn. The way I got this was by typing in testing pawn, and here you can see EQS testing pawn, and you can see the version I made, BP testing pawn, underneath. So you just make a child of this. You place this in the world. I usually place this exactly where my character is, or my AI character is. And if you scroll down, it has a bit here for query template. And I made a environment query test, this, called find shortest path, or shortest path. And all it does is, this is a test, and I've pulled off here and I've gone actors of class. Okay, so this is finding the actors of class around the querier, and the querier in this case is the AI. So, and I'm querying for the move point here. So I've got a BP move point because I'm going off what I think the person who made the question is doing. So it looks like they've got actors for move points. So I decided to make a BP move point, which is literally an empty actor. If I go to it in here, a move point, it's an empty actor with a billboard in it. And then I've added path length from querier. So if you add here, it's another test. If you add a test, I mean, yeah, path finding. Add path finding on here. And what I've done is I've changed some settings on here. So I've changed it to be the test purpose to be score only. I've changed the test mode to be path length, making sure the context is the querier. I've also changed the scoring equation to be inverse linear. Next thing I did was I needed some way to control, well, a place for this logic to go, and a good way of storing specific logic like this is in components. So I made an actor component called AI movement component, which is stored on the AI controller. So I have an AI character, AI controller, pretty standard. The AI character is just a child class of the third person character. Okay, so I'll move on to so I've gone over the component. Let me show you what's in the component. So to use the EQS system, you need to do this, run EQS query. Some important things to note about this is I've made sure to get the control pawn from the AI controller, which if you do get owner of a component, it will get whatever it is attached to. So in this case, it's the AI controller. So I cast, because this is an actor reference, I cast it to the AI controller class to be able to access the get controlled pawn node here, and that is the querier, because the AI character is querying this EQS query, a lot of queries, and I then in the run mode set it to be all matching to get every single actor it queried. Okay. Then you use what's known in Blueprint as an event dispatcher. In C++, it's a delegate. And basically, this is an asynchronous operation. So it runs a query. The query could take more than a frame. So to be able to carry on with the process, basically get the information we need, it's using a delegate here, or a dispatcher, which then calls this on finished find closest move point. So when it's finished querying and the query status is success, I'm getting the query instance and getting query results to locations. So this is getting all of these locations here, as you can see, are scored. So 1 being the best result, and anything closer to 0 is a lesser result. So this is the worst result. As you can see, this is just off the bat. If you're thinking about how like it's scoring these, you can see how it solves the person's problem. It goes from 1, 0.65 to 0.4, 0.15 to 0.0. And that's based on the path length from the querier, the AI. So now I'm managing these. So I've got all of these move locations, and now I'm managing them. So I have to find a way to manage them. And the best way I think to manage them is the way I've done it. So I use this AI move to node, which is also asynchronous, and you can tell when things are asynchronous in Blueprint when they have a little clock on them, a little clock symbol. Also, it's very a given. Well, it makes it really obvious when it has stuff like on success and on fail, because you can tell these are calls when it succeeded, when it reached its move point, and when it fails to reach a move point, maybe it can't reach it. Also has an enum, which is basically a bit more specific results of the movement command. Okay, but we only need to know about on success, and I've done this off a pure cast. So I did right click. If I did cast to AI controller, you can see it's like this. It's got a cast failed and a succeeded execution pin. But if you know it's always going to succeed, you can convert to pure. I know it's going to succeed because I've already checked if it's valid. And that's the world context. The pawn is the world context, and then I have the pawn put here as well. So it's for both of them. And then I've got an index for the current move point that is on. And the array, and it's getting, and that's the next destination. So I've done a check here, because if this isn't here, if it doesn't check that the length is over 0, so there's actually no, if it doesn't check that there's more than one move point, it can be a infinite loop. So I've made sure to check for that. On finish move point, so I've done it here. So is reversing move points. This is because it can then, once it's finished going through all of the move points, it will start going backtracking to the start through the move points, which I think is quite a nice touch. Instead of just starting again from the start, it then patrols backwards, which you would actually do, which it kind of makes sense, like in behavior of humans, that they would not just go to the end of their patrol and then go straight back to the start. They'd probably patrol back and backtrack. So here I'm decrementing the point. So yeah, if it's less than 0, then we have a problem, because that's going to be outside of the array. So I'm incrementing it by 1 to make it go back the other way 1. So it's not going to the same point it's already at. And I've said it is not reversing and call unfinished. So what this does, is it goes back through this process. So now it's not reversing. So it's going to increment the point. Well, actually, so this resets the point because it decrements it. So say the point that's coming, the index right now is 0, so it's decremented it to -1. So this resets it to 0, and then it comes through here, and then so now it's not reversing anymore. It increments the point. So now it's 1. So now it's going to go back the other way. So now it's checking here, is it greater than the end of the array? If it's greater than the end of the array, it's going to do the reverse of what it did for when it was below the end the array, and it's going to set it as reversing. So now it's going to come in here, and it's just going to repeat. So that's how it's created a safe loop in a way to index through all of the move points. I think that's everything to do with the move to the closest location. So let me just compile, save that. I don't think I missed anything. Oh, so the way it's getting called on the character is checking, does it have a move waypoint manager, which is the other system I was talking about for navigation, which I'll briefly go over in a second after I show this working. So it's checking, does it have a waypoint manager? If it doesn't, then it's going to use the activate to closest move point, so it moves to the closest move point, the system that we just went over. Okay, yeah, so it only does the EQS once at the start, and then it will follow those points the rest of the time, which I think is quite good. I mean, EQSs can be quite expensive depending on the size of the query. I think this one, I made it 5,000, which you could find, you could use a lot shorter and it'd be fine. It's just, you just want to make sure you get you get all of the points that you want for the patrol. So if I simulate, you can see the character. It's kind of cool how it will go to each point. I mean, this is the third person template. I mean, it just looks cool. They've done a bit of deceleration and acceleration, as you can see, because it gets to the point, it starts slowing down a little bit, which is quite cool, I think. You can do that with the base movement component on the character. Okay, so you can see how it's gone from each point, and then it's going to start reversing, and then it will endlessly loop, basically. You could do a bit more behavior, like when it succeeds getting to a point, you could play an animation, you could wait a period, you could do a lot. You can make a sound, And also, if you're going to do other behavior, this could be the base behavior when it's not investigating or chasing, for example. It's quite basic behaviors that are quite used in games. So, okay, that solves that guy's problem. But I don't know if this guy knows about using like a waypoint manager as a simplified version of what I just did. So instead of doing that, you could also give the guy a... Oh, apparently I don't have a waypoint manager. Unloaded. Why has it been unloaded? Okay, that was weird. I think I've managed to get it to show. So you can see that it has these locations in it. They're slightly different from the move points that I had. Okay. So similar system, but I have a waypoint manager actor, which is an actual actor in the scene. And it does, so in this system you'd only have one, and you have these locations which are arrays, and they're instance editable and show 3D widget. So you can create these arrays, these locations, and you can move them around. So you can place them wherever you want, and these can be the patrol points. So this function, it's setting the max as -1, so it's basically what I did earlier, but just setting a variable, because this is inside of a function get next waypoint location. So all it has in this class is locations and index. That's all it has. So from the locations, I use the index to get the result location. Then I handle incrementing the current index, and if it's greater than the max, then I set it to 0. So this doesn't have reversing like I did in the other system. If you wanted to add that could be like a challenge for you. I mean, as you can see, you can use the example I used earlier, and you could do a similar system. So here, I'm using the result location. I'm making a transform, and I'm composing it. This is called compose. If you type compose transforms, not times, but it kind of is times. It's a maths thing. You might know about it. So this is basically composing it with the actor transform, because this is a relative transform. So relative as in, if you know the difference between coordinate systems between relative and the world coordinate system, it's composing it so this relative location is then put into, in simplified terms, the world coordinate system. And then this is broken to return the location. So this basically means that doesn't matter where the actual Waypoint Manager actor is, the AI will follow these waypoint locations in the world. It doesn't matter where they are. If you didn't have that compose part at the end, this Waypoint Manager would have to be at 0, 0, which is inconvenience to say the least. Okay, so you saw before in the character how it was activating the move to closest point. I have one here for activate waypoint navigation, which is putting inserting or passing along the waypoint manager reference, setting it, and then calling move to next waypoint, which checks if it's valid. Does a similar check to make sure that the control pawn and the controller is valid, and then it calls fget next waypoint location from the waypoint manager. Same as before, using the control pawn for the world context and the pawn part. And then on success is just calling the same function again. It's just looping. So it's much simpler. I mean, some of the logic is just put into another actor, but yeah, this is a much simpler way of doing it. So it would follow 0, 1, 2. And if you did reverse, logic for reversing, it would do 2, 1, 0. So it's not based on how close it is. It's based on the order of the array. So let's take a look at that. Oh, that doesn't seem to have worked. So if I go to the character, I have to make sure that the waypoint manager is in that slot for it to work. And the character's going to run. If I click on the waypoint, you can see the points. So the character's going to run. It uses the most efficient route is calculated on the navigation bounds volume, and it's going to run to 2, and then it's going to run all the way back to the start because I haven't done the reversing logic. But there you go. I hope that helped the guy I was originally trying to help, what's his name, Procasa. I hope that helped. And I hope it helped anyone else trying to learn a bit of how to control AI navigation. So yeah, I would say the best system. I mean, it was kind of interesting for me to make using the testing pawn and doing the EQS way, because I've been doing a lot of EQS recently, and I think it's just really interesting. It's really a lot. You can do a lot with it. You can do AI cover. You can make the AI find hiding spots. You can do a lot with it. So it's just interesting to play around with, and this is the way I've made it work with the question from the guy from the forums.